You know, some fellow who's lived knows what the score is.
Excuse me, Emmett, I got to get this up to the baby.
It's important to have a godfather with his feet on the ground.
When Mayberry's familiar whistle faded, viewers thought its gentle world was gone forever. But in 1968, Mayberry R.F.D. quietly arrived, not as a replacement, but as a continuation of a fading American heartbeat. Beneath its calm front porches and dirt roads, hidden tensions, subtle shifts, and untold struggles shaped the town's story, proving that even the quietest places hold secrets worth discovering. Fact number 10. The quiet reason Mayberry survived without Andy.
I believe that's the nicest wedding I ever went to.
Oh, yeah, it was perfect. Except for Barney. Did you see him try to find that ring?
I'm trying to hold Andy's hand.
Yeah.
And then he walked all the way down the aisle with him.
When the Andy Griffith Show ended in 1968, CBS faced an unexpected dilemma. One of television's most beloved towns was about to disappear, and audiences weren't ready to say goodbye. Mayberry R.F.D. was designed as a bridge between eras. Behind the scenes, the network hoped Andy Griffith would continue appearing regularly, offering reassurance that nothing had truly changed. Griffith declined. He wanted a complete, respectful ending, not a lingering presence. That decision forced the producers into a risky creative move. Instead of trying to replace Andy Taylor, they shifted Mayberry's emotional center to Ken Berry's Sam Jones, a familiar but understated character. This wasn't meant as a substitute, but as a way for the town to grow naturally. Writers were even instructed to avoid frequent mentions of Andy, treating his absence as normal rather than dramatic. By allowing change to feel quiet and human, Mayberry R.F.D. survived, and that gentle acceptance of life moving forward may have been the most Mayberry idea of all. Fact number 9. Why Mayberry R.F.D. became a quiet color television experiment.
Guest room's all ready. Now, do you prefer a goose down pillow or foam rubber?
Oh, either one.
Well, the goose down's more comfortable, but in case you have an allergy...
No, I don't think I have.
By 1968, American television was changing rapidly, and Mayberry R.F.D. found itself at a crossroads most viewers never noticed. Its predecessor, The Andy Griffith Show, had spent most of its life in black and white, shaping Mayberry as a town defined by faces, voices, and pauses rather than visual spectacle. Entering color, the series faced a format it was never designed for: simplicity over showmanship. Behind the scenes, CBS treated the show as a subtle experiment. Executives wanted to see if a gentle, rural series could survive in color without flashy sets, trendy wardrobes, or modern energy. Production crews softened palettes, muted clothing tones, avoided sharp contrasts, and kept colors understated. The screen felt warmer and slower, more like a cherished memory than a modern broadcast. Through this restrained approach, Mayberry R.F.D. quietly proved color TV did not need noise or spectacle. It could thrive on familiarity, passing one final gentle test. Fact number 8. The unseen reason the show quietly outlasted its legendary predecessor.
Seems to me like an older man would be just about the right one to fit the bill. You know, some fellow who's lived knows what the score is.
Excuse me, Emmett, I got to get this up to the baby.
Many fans assume Mayberry R.F.D. survived simply because audiences missed Mayberry. The truth is far more practical. By the late 1960s, CBS faced pressure to control production costs while keeping reliable ratings. The Andy Griffith Show had grown expensive. Burdened by rising star salaries and a prestige budget, Mayberry R.F.D. was conceived as a solution. The series leveraged existing advantages. Standing sets were reused, backlot locations remained familiar, and much of the creative team stayed intact. Scripts focused on everyday situations rather than elaborate storylines or celebrity guests. Slower pacing meant fewer camera setups, shorter production time, and lower costs. Ultimately, Mayberry R.F.D. lasted longer than its predecessor, not because it was bigger, but because it was easier to sustain. In a television world growing louder, faster, and costlier, the town quietly proved simplicity could still keep the lights on. Fact number 7. The casting choice that quietly reshaped Mayberry's heart. When Mayberry R.F.D. began its first season, viewers noticed a subtle emotional shift, but struggled to name it. That change traced back to a single casting decision rarely discussed. Ken Berry was not chosen to replace Andy Taylor's authority, he was chosen to soften it. Berry's Sam Jones was deliberately warmer, more emotionally open, and far less commanding than Andy had ever been. Producers believed late 1960s audiences no longer sought moral instruction from a sheriff, They wanted kindness, patience, and quieter humor. Barry embraced that shift, portraying Sam as a man who listened more than he led. Writers adjusted storylines to match, reducing discipline-driven plots while emphasizing family-centered moments. Sam hesitated, questioned himself, and relied on others, especially Helen and the townspeople. That vulnerability subtly altered Mayberry's rhythm. For longtime fans, the town felt different, less structured, more human. That single casting choice quietly reshaped what Mayberry represented in its final years. Fact number 6. Why Mayberry R.F.D. quietly avoided the social storms of its era. By the time Mayberry R.F.D. reached television screens, America was in open cultural turmoil. The late 1960s were defined by protests, political unrest, and rapid social change. Many series reflected these tensions directly, weaving controversy and current events into their stories. Mayberry did the opposite. It stayed silent, a deliberate creative choice. Producers and writers followed an unwritten rule. Mayberry would remain untouched by real-world conflict. No references to Vietnam, political arguments, or generational anger. CBS supported this, viewing the series as an emotional refuge for viewers exhausted by nightly news unrest. Scripts that drifted too close to social issues were quietly reworked. This refusal limited critical attention, but earned loyalty. Older audiences embraced Mayberry as one of the last spaces on television where life felt calm and predictable. In a decade of upheaval, the show did not shout, it offered quiet, and that calm became its most powerful statement. Fact number 5. Why Frances Bavier quietly distanced herself from Mayberry forever.
Oh, yes, he's a very spirited animal. And when the mood strikes him, he loves to kick up his heels and bark and talk.
Indeed.
You know those horses at the rodeo?
Yeah. Yeah.
To millions of viewers, Aunt Bee felt inseparable from Mayberry. Her warmth, her kitchen, her gentle scolding made her the town's emotional center. Behind the scenes, Frances Bavier's relationship with the show was far more complicated and persisted long after Mayberry R.F.D. ended. By the later years of the series, Bavier's health was declining. Arthritis and chronic fatigue made filming long days painful. Cast members noted she often withdrew between takes, not out of aloofness, but from exhaustion. Acting had become demanding, even as audience affection for Aunt Bee grew. When production ended in 1971, Bavier left Hollywood entirely, relocating to a small North Carolina town. She declined most reunions, gave few interviews, and avoided publicly revisiting Mayberry. She didn't reject it. She needed separation from a role that had begun to consume her identity. For Frances Bavier, letting go of Mayberry was quiet, private, and necessary. Fact number 4. How Mayberry R.F.D. became a quiet casualty of television's rural purge. In its final seasons, Mayberry R.F.D. still delivered respectable ratings, especially among older viewers and middle America households. Yet in 1971, it was abruptly canceled. To audiences, the decision felt sudden and confusing. Behind the scenes, the series had been swept into a dramatic network-wide shift, later called the rural purge. CBS concluded that its future depended on younger, urban viewers appealing to high-value advertisers. Ratings alone no longer mattered. Who watched and where they lived became paramount. Shows rooted in small towns or traditional communities were increasingly seen as outdated, no matter their performance. Mayberry R.F.D. embodied stability and familiarity, qualities now considered commercially limiting. Dozens of rural programs were cut, not for quality, but for strategy. The town had survived Andy's departure, color television, and shifting expectations, but it could not survive a boardroom declaration that its world was unfashionable. Mayberry did not fade through storytelling. It was switched off, and an era quietly ended. Fact number 3. The unfinished character journeys viewers were never meant to notice. When Mayberry R.F.D. was abruptly cancelled, many viewers assumed the town had simply reached a natural farewell. In truth, several long-term character arcs were being quietly developed behind the scenes, only to be abandoned midstream. Writers planned gradual growth for Sam Jones, Helen Crump, and secondary townsfolk, but none of it unfolded on screen. Sam Jones was intended to confront deeper doubts about balancing responsibility with family life, evolving into a modern father figure defined more by emotional presence than authority. Helen Crump, portrayed by Annetta Cossau, was set to explore independence, ambition, and personal choice in ways rural sitcoms rarely attempted. Production notes also outlined gentle changes to the town itself. New families arriving, younger characters subtly challenging Mayberry's routines, not through conflict, but contrast. When the rural purge struck, these scripts were shelved overnight. There were no rewrites, no resolutions, no farewells. Mayberry R.F.D. feels unfinished because it literally was. Fact number 2. How Mayberry R.F.D. protected Andy Taylor's legacy by never bringing him back. One of the most tempting choices for Mayberry R.F.D. producers was also the one they deliberately refused. They never brought Andy Taylor back on screen. Not for a guest appearance, not for a finale, not even symbolically. This absence was intentional, a carefully maintained creative rule. The production team understood that any return by Andy Griffith would immediately shift the show's emotional balance. His presence, however brief, would remind viewers that this was no longer his series. To preserve the new identity of Mayberry R.F.D., Andy was treated as a living memory, respected but unseen. References were subtle, a passing line of dialogue, a shared understanding, never explanation or exposition. The town acted as if Andy lived quietly, just beyond the edge of the screen. That restraint preserved Andy Taylor's legacy far more effectively than any cameo could. By refusing to exploit him for ratings, the show protected his dignity. In an era tempted by spectacle, silence ensured Andy remained exactly who viewers remembered him to be. Fact number 1. Why Mayberry R.F.D. still feels like a story without an ending. Even decades later, many fans describe Mayberry R.F.D. with a quiet sense that something was left unfinished. That feeling was real. Unlike most long-running series, the show never received a proper farewell. No final episode crafted to release viewers gently. No concluding moment to mark the end. No symbolic closure for a town audiences had grown to know intimately. CBS canceled the series in 1971 abruptly and without ceremony. Production wrapped under the assumption another season might still be possible. Sets remained intact, character relationships unresolved, and cast members learned the show was over only after the decision had been finalized behind closed doors, leaving many shocked and disappointed. The final episode feels ordinary. No closing lessons, no symbolic endings, no emotional resolution. Mayberry does not say goodbye, it simply stops. That unresolved ending is why the series lingers in memory long after the screen fades. The story feels paused, as if Mayberry still exists somewhere beyond the frame, waiting quietly for life to continue. When the lights finally dimmed on Mayberry R.F.D., nothing truly ended. The town didn't vanish. It retreated into memory. For those who watched, Mayberry became more than a setting. It became a feeling of safety, patience, and quiet kindness that television rarely offers anymore. It lingers, not as a story that concluded, but as a place that waits, a reminder of a time when life moved slower, conversations lasted longer, and the world felt whole, if only for a moment each week.